Let us first read a well-known definition of schema on which our arguments are based. The schema is that hypothetical mental structure in which some fundamental notions are organized in a series of relations that allow us to assimilate new knowledge or to accommodate pre-existing knowledge to new ones. Let us now discover what is the characteristic of the schema that makes it malleable and plastic. It is the ability to evaluate its own adequacy to the processed data and, consequently, to modify itself to adapt to reality. Researchers who have studied the issue have defined 3 types of malleability plasticity, each of which is linked to a specific learning modality: growth learning, fine-tuning learning, and restructuring learning. The first occurs when new knowledge fits into existing schemas and expands them. For example, my airplane schema expands when I learn how to start the device that military fighter bombers have to be refueled in flight. The second occurs when patterns can evolve or change to better match experience. For example, after studying the concept of lift, in relation to the wings of a traditional airliner, I refine that concept as I gain new knowledge about delta-wing aircraft. The third finally occurs when a given reality puts us in the condition to create new schemes by tracing them on existing schemes or deriving them from experience. Let's look at this last case in more detail through an example. What is this aircraft? Is it a plane or a helicopter? Let's take a good look at it before answering. Usually, the image evokes the 2 schemes that almost all of us have in memory. That is, the airplane scheme and the helicopter scheme. In practice, based on our knowledge of aeronautics, the activated schemes will be more or less these. Scheme airplane: elongated cockpit, landing gear, front cockpit, wings, propellers. Propellers. Yes, but they should not be pointing upwards. So, this aircraft is not a real airplane. It has a feature that does not fit into the canonical categories. Helicopter diagram: upwards propellers, landing gear, long cockpit. Someone may remember the shape of certain large military transport helicopters, but it has wings like an airplane. So, it's not a real helicopter. But if it's not a real plane and it's not a real helicopter, what is it? At this point, the 2 schemes we have in our memory are inadequate to explain the reality we are faced with. This aircraft is a third thing compared to an airplane or a helicopter and probably also has a name that distinguishes it from both. The 2 memory schemes, if they want to be adequate to the sensitive data and to account for this aircraft, must transform themselves and give rise, through restructure generation, to a third scheme which incorporates and integrates the characteristics of the other 2 and which has its own specific name. Indeed, that is the case. And the third scheme has its own name: convertiplan. In conclusion, let's see what the implications of our analyses can be on the didactic formative level. Knowing that the patterns that each of us has in our memory are plastic and malleable allows us to plan educational formative interventions that act on the one hand towards the genesis of cognitive structures that lead to intellectual development and on the other towards the creation of forms of knowledge that favor emancipation from ignorance. All of this, obviously, in function of a growth of the person in his entirety.